Okay, I'm a little bit winded. I just finished dealing with the garden and pulling some more stuff out. But this video I'm doing real quick is to explain this past week. So not this past week we just had, but the week before that, our church was getting ready to have a little outside camp for children. And it's basically VBS. And for those of you who don't know what VBS is, it stands for Vacation Bible School. And the title of the camp was called Runner's Summer Camp. So there is a park, a community park for families to play in just down the street from us. It's not far at all. And our church rented it for 4 to 5 days so that kids could have outside VBS. Now, like I said, not this past week, but the week before that, if you wanted to be a volunteer at the summer camp, you have to fill out an application, and then they do a background check because you'll be working with children. So my husband and I both filled out applications, and when they were done with the background check, they then send us emails to give us information about what we're going to be doing as a volunteer, and also had us watch a 30-minute video so that we know the signs of any children who might be getting abused so that we can report it if we see something going on that it shouldn't be happening. But so the first night of summer camp was this past Sunday night. It was Sunday evening, and all the volunteers were to be there between 4 and 5 to help set up everything and get ready because the kids were going to show up at 6. And the camp itself was from 6:30 until 8:20. So the first night being Sunday evening, my husband and I got there a little bit after 4, and we helped set up the tents, the tables, all the activities that were going to happen that evening. And because I was a volunteer, and this is my first time doing so, I had a different volunteer there another volunteer that was there who has more experience with it because she's done it before, and she showed me the ropes so I would know what to do. And Sunday evening was fine. It went by really fast, and I had a lot of fun with the kids. I was a leader of a small group of girls ages 9 and 10, and my husband was a leader of a small group of boys with another leader as well. We both each had like 2 or 3 leaders with us, and to handle that many girls, because in my group alone there was like 15 girls, so it took 3 leaders, all of us, to keep them all wrangled together. But he was in charge of a small group of boys who were either 5 and 6 or 6 and 7. I forget what number age it was. I don't remember. And so Sunday evening went off fine. Well, Monday evening at about 4 p.m., we both received emails that because of the horrible I say horrible because it's not safe for kids to be out in the sun as hot as it was supposed to be that week. And this entire week, we had 97 to over 100 degree weather every single day. It was hot. And they were afraid and worried that the children being outside in the sun, even though they're drinking water the whole time, we had so many stations of water just to keep the kids hydrated. But the fact was, it was so hot outside that I alone was sweating like crazy. I drank a lot of water because it was so hot. And they were afraid that the kids were going to experience heat stroke or something. So instead of it being the entire week, they ended up having the very last night, Monday evening, even though that was supposed to be night number 2. So we get the email telling us that was the last night. And I'm like, okay. So we were kind of bummed because we were like looking forward to doing these activities and helping children come closer to God. That was the whole point of the summer camp, was to bring children closer to Jesus. But can't control the weather. So Monday evening, we get there a little bit after 4. I think it's like 4:15 to 4:20. And my husband is helping the guys set up the tents. I went and helped set up the tables. And with it being the last night, they decided to have family night that night where the families get to participate with the children and be there and watch. And They were serving hot dogs, chips, and a cookie with a bottle of water as a dinner for the families, for everyone, including the staff. And the person who was in charge of the hot dogs, he was understaffed and he needed help. So me and my husband and a couple of other ladies that were there helped get everything set up, get everything organized, and getting them ready to be dished out to each family who comes up and grabs a plate. And we did that from like 4:20 p.m. until 7 p.m. And the whole time we were doing that, it was extremely hot. I was sweating so badly, I had to take a break twice. The first time I took a break was to wipe the sweat off my face because I couldn't see. It was getting in my eyes. And then the second time, I actually had to sit down because I was standing up for literally over 2 hours and my back was killing me. And that's when I told my husband, I'm like, I have to take a break. My back is screaming at me right now, and if I don't sit down, it's probably going to cause me to start crying. So I had one of the other ladies take over my spot of handing it out to people, because she was just organizing all the water bottles. But she went over and took over my spot for me so I could sit down and rest. And at one point while I was resting, I went over to my husband and said, I need the car keys because I left my other bottle of water in the car. So he handed them to me. I go to the car, I get my bottle of water out, and I remember having 2 bottles of water in my hand, my phone, and his car keys. I go back over there to him, and I proceed to try to hand him the car keys back, and he goes, you know what, just hang on to them. I'm like, okay then. So I have a backpack that I was using at this camp. Instead of it being my purse, I was using a backpack. And it's a purple one with a bunch of flowers, and it was really pretty. And I only had that backpack maybe a year, and only used it like once or twice. That happened to be maybe the second or third time, so I didn't think anything of it. And there's 2 little pockets on each side. There's one on one side and one on the other. The one on the left side is where I put his keys. The one on the right side was my house keys that I keep on me so I can get in and out of the house and the front gate. And I put everything up. I sat down. I ate a small snack to get my energy back up, drank a whole bunch of water. And then by that point, 7 p.m. hit, and it was time to for me and my husband to hurry off to our groups to do what the children do for activities. So I grabbed my backpack, my bottle of water, my phone, and we both set off to our groups. And our groups are close by, but in separate areas, because the girls are on one side, the boys are on the other. There's just a small line dividing us, but not much. And we could still see each other while we're trying to wrangle the kids and get them all ready for their activities. And the whole time, I'm dealing with the girls, trying to get them to stay focused. And I could tell they were having a lot of fun. The girls were just having a blast. And they went from drinking a lot of water to just taking bottles of water and dumping it on their heads because it got so hot and they were sweating that they wanted to be in a pool at that point. And I didn't blame them. I even made a joke, is there a pool around here I can jump into? Because it was that hot. And the girls literally were taking bottles of water and dumping it on their heads because they were so hot. And one girl goes, oh, that feels so good. Now, where's the pool? I was laughing because of how accurate it was. But towards around 8:20, it was time to set the girls off with their parents. We made sure that they were with their parents and got ready to leave. And then me and my husband went and started helping pack all the tents up, all the tables and activities away, got all that done. And pretty much everyone at that point had packed up, gotten into their cars, and left. Well, my husband and I were still there. He was helping the hot dog guy finish putting the rest of his stuff up into the back of his truck so he could take it back to wherever he was taking it from. And I was standing there talking to an elderly couple who, it was their first night being there just to experience it. I guess their grandparents or something. And I was just standing there talking to them. And I got so distracted talking to him that the time went right past me. It was like maybe 1 to 2 hours of standing there talking. I just didn't realize it. But I was drinking water the whole time. And all of a sudden, in the middle of it, my husband comes up to me and goes, car keys. And I'm like, oh, right. And then I start to pull the keys out of my purse, or at least I thought so. I'm looking in every single pocket of my backpack. I'm not finding his keys. And I looked at him and said, are you sure you gave them to, didn't I give them back to you after the car? And he goes, no, I told you to hang on to them. And I'm like, will you check your pockets just to make sure? He did. No keys. So I'm like, how is that even possible? What the heck happened to my keys? It's like, where are they? And I'm looking, I literally dumped everything out of my backpack onto the grass and searched through everything. I wasn't finding them. And we're both tired, we're hot, we're sweating, we want to go home, take a shower, and go to bed. But we went from getting ready to just, like, we were having a good time, but I could tell he was tired and wanting to go. But here I am trying to find the keys. And I'm like, seriously, what the heck happened to him? And then the hot dog guy and some other lady that was there that I met a couple of nights before the whole summer camp, she asked me to retrace my steps. So we all started searching all over the grounds of everywhere I had been when I had the keys last. We literally searched the entire field. And I eventually got to the point where I went over to the road instead of the grass and once again, dumped everything out of my backpack. Nothing. And I'm thinking, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, there's no way that these keys could have fallen out of my backpack because the pocket is such a tight pocket. You have to forcefully put the keys into the pocket to even get them in. And in order to get them out, you got to yank really hard to pull them out. That's how tight the pocket is. So in my mind, they were safe sitting in there until it was time to yank them out. So I was trying to figure out how it was even possible for them to have fallen out of the bag. And eventually I get tired of looking, so I go and I sit down on a curb right next to our parked car. My husband's on the phone with a tow truck to see if they can just tow it to our house, which is just down the street, and we would come back in the morning and search again. And I'm just sitting there trying to retrace my steps, thinking to myself, what in the world? It doesn't make any sense. And as I'm sitting there, I suddenly start to feel my entire body on fire. And I'm thinking, what in the world? I stand up, I start checking all over my body, and I discovered I have ants on me. I freaked because it scared me a little bit because I don't know what kind of ants they are, and I'm allergic to practically everything outside. And my first thought was, oh crap, next thing I know, I'm going to end up in the hospital because I'm going to break out into hives. I'm allergic to so much stuff outside. That was the first thing that went to my mind is, oh crap, what did I sit on? And I loudly go, did I sit on an anthill? My husband then turns on the flashlight, looks at the ground where I was sitting and goes, yes, you literally were sitting on an anthill. And from the looks of it, they were fire ants. And I'm like, shit. That's exactly what went through my mind. It was the S word. I'm like, crap. I am checking all over me, trying to get them off. I lifted up my shirt so the woman could check my back and get all of them off because they had gotten inside my clothing and were biting me. It was bad. She happened to remember that I had liquid Benadryl in my backpack in case I had an allergic reaction to anything outside in the park. She looks at me and goes, if I remember correctly, I seen liquid Benadryl on your back. Yes? And I'm like, yes, you did. She goes, I'm assuming you have that for allergies. I said, yes, because I'm allergic to everything out here. She goes, take it now. And I'm like, okay. And I ended up having to go behind the car where it's really dark and no one could see me, and I had to take off my shirt and put on a different shirt that I had with me because that shirt, there were ants covered in it and I couldn't get them all off. So I took it off, put it in a bag that I had, and put the other shirt on and took some liquid Benadryl because my whole body was not only itchy, but it was literally on fire. And then, so as I'm putting the liquid Benadryl container back into my bag and I start to put the bag of the shirt that still had ants on it, I tied it really tight and was beginning to put it back into my bag when a thought occurred to me. I know this other dude that was standing around us earlier helping us look for the keys made a comment about how he knows someone who lost a ring or something in the lining of their purse and they didn't know about it until they almost sold it or something like that. I don't remember the whole story. But I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just going to poke my finger into that pocket where the keys are supposed to be and see if there's a hole in the lining without thinking about it. I put my finger into that pocket. I start feeling around. Next thing I know, the car is freaking screaming at me because I accidentally hit the alarm button and it jumped me out of my freaking skin. I jumped so freaking hard, my heart was racing. And I looked at the car like, what the freaking hell? Because it scared the crap out of me. My husband looks at me and goes, what did you do? And I'm like, all I did was put my hand in this pocket and the car started screaming at me. And he goes, that's because you have the keys. And I'm like, how? How do I have the keys? I don't see them. And next thing I know, the entire group of people that were trying to help us find the keys on the ground came rushing over to us in the parking lot of the car. And they come over and the hot dog guy goes, what did you do? And I once again said, I put my finger in this pocket to see if maybe there was a hole in the lining I wasn't aware of. And next thing I know, my car is literally screaming at me and scared the snot out of me. And he goes, the keys are in there. And I'm like, I don't feel them. All I feel is a hole. So he puts his hand inside that pocket, pulls open the hole, and sure enough, there's the freaking keys at the bottom of the bag inside the lining of a pocket of a hole I didn't even know was there. He pulls them out, unlocks the car, we're able to get in. At that point, my husband goes, okay, I can cancel the tow truck. And I'm thinking to myself, you have got to be freaking kidding me. And this woman who told me to take the Benadryl, she goes, here's a word of advice. Sell the bag to someone else. And I'm like, I haven't even had the bag for that long. How is it even possible to have a tear or a hole in the lining? She goes, it doesn't matter. Just get another bag, a different bag, one without holes in it. And I'm like, I turned and looked at my husband. I'm like, let's go home. Because I am itchy. I am covered in stuff. So, long story short, check the hole of the lining of any of your bags, because most likely that's probably where stuff is hiding and you don't even know it. I get home, I take all the clothes off, I'm searching my body, and my body was still on fire, so I quickly scrubbed my body as hard as I could with soap and water, and I took some liquid Benadryl. But the thing was, I didn't take enough at first, under 5 mLs, and I'm tossing and turning because my whole body is on fire, or not as much on fire, but it was just itching, and I couldn't get comfortable. Eventually, my husband goes, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I am uncomfortable. I am extremely tired. I want to go to sleep, but I am so itchy, I can't get comfortable to go to sleep. He goes, take more Benadryl. So I ended up taking some more and finally fell asleep. The next day, I wrote on Facebook about how ant bites are the worst because I was covered in them and I was itchy. So people suggested, the lady who told me about the Benadryl when she told me to take some, she had suggested that night before we left to take a warm bath with Epsom salt, fragrance-free, of course, because I'm allergic to perfume, and baking soda. Soak in it for a little bit. It will help. So we went to Target and got some, and then I went to Walmart and got some lotion with oatmeal in it because that also helps with itching, and the bath, and then I put the lotion on, itching stopped. But the very next morning when I looked at my body, I discovered the ants bit me my arm, my hand, where my fingers are. My back was 4 or 5 spots, and my butt. They literally bit my butt. Of all the places to have ant bites. I couldn't see those spots, so when it was time to put lotion on them, I had my husband put them on there. I couldn't see it, but I was covered in them. So now you know. If you get bit by an ant, soak it in Epsom salt, baking soda, and then put lotion with oatmeal in it. It makes it stop itching. Benadryl made the fire go away that was inside my body. So that is the crazy story of what I went through this past week.